my first 2 nursing exams of the semester. Yay! I'm about to treat myself to some food real quick, since I passed with 90s, by the way. And then after I treat myself to some food, I'm then going to sit down with you guys at my whiteboard and tell y'all exactly how I did it.
Y'all better come up here and get one of these.
What's that?
It's a chicken salad.
From where?
81st Deli.
What's on it?
Superior.
Okay, as promised, here I am in front of my whiteboard with a couple of little tips, tricks, / tools to put in your toolbox if you think like me. That helped me pass my first 2 exams of the semester of level 1 nursing with 90%. And I'm so excited about that. So I really want to share these things with you guys because since posting my last video, I've actually gained like a couple of subscribers that are also in nursing school with me at the same time, whether they're just the semester before or they're level 2 or they're level 3 or they're right with me. And I really love that we're creating this community where we can support each other through this journey at this point in our lives. So I love that, and me posting this video is basically attempting to just keep that going and grow the community even more. So I'm listing them from what I think is the least helpful, but like still helpful. You know, everything is helpful, but the least helpful for me down to the absolute most helpful. And I'm going to provide detail on every single one of these. It's not just this straightforward. All right. So number 1, which is the least helpful for me personally, is the staff created PowerPoints, meaning the PowerPoints that the professors have created that they go over during class and then post online for us to reference later. For me personally, the PowerPoints are kind of like their outline for how they need to keep up with lecture in class. It's not the best study tool for me personally, because it's like the PowerPoints will hit on the main concepts. They will just literally list the main concepts and not go into any detail at all. But there's a lot of people in my class who say they're just studying off the PowerPoints, and more power to them. That's not working for me. I've never been that person. I've never been the person to study off a PowerPoint and be like, that's enough for me. Which leads me to my next point. Number 2, read the chapters. This is basically essential because if you are just relying on your lecture and your PowerPoint, at this point in our collegiate and higher education career, you know that the professors aren't going to sit there and spoon feed you the information like this is what's going to be on the test and here's the details that you need and da-da-da. They're not doing that. They're in class to tell you, okay, this section's important. Okay, that section's important. That's kind of what the PowerPoint's doing, is telling you what sections are important. But you go and fill that in by reading the chapters. You fill in that PowerPoint with the information in the chapters. The information in the chapters is completely objective. Completely objective. I'm sure there's some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, your chapter is what is going to be the key to your success, because that's where the tests are being created from. So let's say y'all have test review and you're like, I read something totally different in the chapter and they're saying that I'm wrong. You can literally go open your chapter, show your teacher, and they're gonna be like, you're right, that was in the book, so I'm gonna give you that point, or those couple points, you know? So read the chapters, fill in your lecture notes with the details of the chapter. I personally go through the chapter and I highlight. I've basically, throughout college and high school, I have accomplished the ability, or I've attained the ability to highlight just the important things. I know some people struggle with highlighting and they end up highlighting everything because they think everything's important, but you have to be able to pull out of the chapters what is the important details. What is it that you don't quite remember or you've never heard of before? Those things you highlight so that you know you need to go back and make notes on it or research a little bit more. You know, pull the important things out of the chapter that will help you then comprehend complex questions that are requiring your reasoning, aka Nclex questions. Anyways, next, number 3, create your own notes. Now, after I go through the chapters and I read and I'm just like, okay, I've got a lot of details in my brain, I've got a lot highlighted, I take those few things that I highlighted and the few things that I did a little bit more research on, and I create my own like outline of information, because I personally create my notes into an outline. Some people type up their notes, some people just scribble, scratch, and write it. However you study, some people do flashcards, some people do Quizlet. However you study personally, create your own notes and use those as references to go back, so you don't have to keep flipping through this 1,500 page nursing fundamentals book. You now have maybe 5 pages of notes versus 50 on a chapter, okay? You know what I mean? So create your own notes. I think that listening to your lecture, that's one time you're hearing the information with whatever details your teacher decides to add. Reading the chapters, that's your second time seeing the information, and you're able to literally fill it in with so much detail, so many little nuanced things. Like in class, the teacher might say, know how to take a blood pressure. In the textbook, it might say, know how to take a blood pressure. Side note, don't take a blood pressure on someone who had a mastectomy on this side. You know what I mean? Like, you get more details from the chapter. Third time you're going over is when you create your own notes. So now by the time you're to the point where you're making your own notes, you have been over this information 3 times. That's what helps me. By the time I've created my notes, this is the 3rd time I'm hearing / seeing the information. And for myself, and creating it in a way that I understand and how I learn. You see what I'm saying? So that's something I think is super beneficial. The 4th thing I have been taking advantage of is YouTube, okay? So for example, the 2 tests I've taken so far are in nursing fundamentals and adult nursing. Both of those classes require us to know skills as well as just knowing information to apply to those questions and use our own reasoning and da-da-da. And I find it easiest to like visualize something and understand something if I look up the concept on YouTube. Let's say it's sterile gloving, okay? You know, we're learning techniques of asepsis and keeping things, you know, infection free and all that stuff. Sterile gloving is a concept, okay? So now I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to say, how to don sterile gloves. And I don't know, registered nurse RN or some professor at some university is going to show me how they put on sterile gloves. And I'm going to watch their video and look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that looks like what my teacher said. Then I'm going to watch it again and compare it to what my notes say and what the book says, how I need to do it for my class, me personally. And I'm going to be able to visualize it a little bit better. And for me, seeing it helps me learn. I can't just read about how to put on sterile gloves. I mean, I can, but it's not the best. Like, it's better to visualize it, in my opinion. So utilizing YouTube to actually see some examples and some videos of these different techniques not only help you kind of know how to get your flow of how to do things, but it just helps you visualize. Simple as that. It helps you remember, because you're like, oh yeah, I watched a video on that. What did she do first? And how did she do it? Oh yeah, I remember she grabbed it like this instead of like this. You know what I mean? Like, utilize that. And last but not least, the most beneficial for me personally anyways, practice questions. Now, here's why practice questions are so important for me. Because after doing all these different steps, I'm able to apply my knowledge to these practice questions. Now, the practice questions are modeled just like the questions on my exams. So if your teachers also do Nclex style questions on their exams, which they should, doing practice questions at the end of each chapter or out of your Nclex book, or just Googling them and finding them, or maybe you're hearing them on a nursing Nclex podcast or whatever. Trying those practice questions to apply said knowledge for whatever it is you're studying at the time is so beneficial, because now you get to use the knowledge that you have just put in your brain and see what you know and what you don't know. And not only that, but the practice questions always come with rationales. The rationales, let me tell you, so important. Now, my mom has been a nurse for a very long time, and she told me, you know, when I got into this, she was like, study the rationales. That is going to help you understand. And she did not lie. If you study the rationales, you're going to be like able to understand what it is that the test makers are trying to get you to understand when you're taking the test. You're going to understand how to take the test. You're going to understand how to think in order to pass the test. You're going to understand what kind of reasoning skills Nclex is expecting you to have to be a competent nurse, because those rationales are going to tell you. So I didn't prepare any practice questions for this, but let me just try to come up with one off the top of my head so I can explain a little bit better why I'm saying practice questions were so beneficial for me. Let's say the question is, a nurse is teaching adolescents about remaining infection-free. What is the most important thing, or what has the highest priority that the nurse should teach the adolescents? That's a very vague question, but let's go through A, B, C, and D. A is daily bathing habits. B is intact skin. Keep it, remaining to having intact skin. Whatever. C is going to be washing your hands. D is going to be cough into your sleeve instead of into your hand and then go touch things, okay? Right. That's the question. Now, all of these answers sound like, yeah, that could help prevent infection, but the correct answer is going to be like, teach them to have intact skin, like don't have abrasions, don't keep open wounds and cuts and da-da. And the reason being, because I've practiced this question before, is because the first line of defense that your body has against infection is like intact skin and intact mucosa, like your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want cuts and abrasions and things like that in your mucosa. So that's your very first line of defense. And that's going to be the answer to that question. And if you chose, let's say, daily bathing, it's like, well, yeah, I could see why that's right, but that's not going to be in your book. That's not going to be in any nursing rationale ever. That's not going to be in your teacher's mind, because they've probably been a nurse forever, and they're going to be like, duh, keep your skin intact. Like, that's the first thing. You know what I mean? Like, but you're not going to know that as a nursing student who is new to the game unless you've literally practiced the questions, gotten them wrong, and then went and read why you got them wrong in the rationale. You see what I'm saying? Like, going through, practicing them, getting them right, getting them wrong, whatever. As long as you read the rationale, you're learning how to think like a nurse. Period. So this is the key to success right here, okay? That's all I have for you guys as far as how I got my first 2 90s. I'm so excited because I really didn't think I could do it. That sounds bad, but like I said, I took a crack at it way back when I was like 18, 19, and I didn't do that great. You know, I had a lot going on, plus I wasn't studying right, and I didn't understand how to take the test and the questions. So now coming back and really just trying again, I'm just so happy that like what I'm doing and what I learned from the past is helping me now, and I'm doing great so far. And I hope I can keep it up. And if I can, of course, I want to share it with this community that I'm creating online for student nurses at this moment in time. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, like you have done in the past couple of nursing videos, talk to me down in the comments below. Let me know what you do to study. Help me out, because we all need it. We're all in this together. At the end of the day, we need to help each other make it through to the end. We all have the same goal, okay? So I hope this was a good video for you guys. Like it, subscribe, I don't know, follow me on Instagram. Let's talk over there. That's it. I need to go study. I need to go study some more. I have a lab check off tomorrow at 8 a.m. All right, goodbye.